All right.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man of his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Shimon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, but Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, and all his brethren and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there rose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said to his people, Behold, the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal wise with them, lest they multiply and come to pass that when they fall out of any war, they join into our enemies and fight against us. So get them up out of the land.
All right. So there was a thing in our government that showed the Israelites was on the top terrorist list, right? Number 3, an internal terrorist, right? Meaning that we're inside here and we can overthrow them, right? So that means that their fear is because we're becoming numerous that we can create allies. And everything is about allies, but it's showing you politics. And one of the things about the political game that we have to understand is what happened to the children of Israel that the Pharaoh turned on them. Anybody read in that verse what happened?
They multiplied.
It was a new Pharaoh. So somehow we got out the loop of what? The government, the political game. So what does that mean for us today? We got to get in the loop. Even if you're not in the game, so to speak, you still play a strong role in it. You have to play a part of some aspects of politics. And I'm not even talking about voting. Voting is the last thing I'm talking about. But I'm talking about you holding positions of power or influencing the position of power. Isn't that how the Jews work? When Barack Obama got, when he was inaugurated, he had 3 Jews with him. Anybody can name them? Anybody can name 2 of them? One of them? Give me one.
Didn't he have Michelle Obama's cousin?
No, but that Fournier is a part, but he wasn't a part of the initial cabinet. I'm talking about that. Like, not in the cabinet, like his advisors.
Oh, he got advisors.
That's chief right about Fournier.
My bad.
That's the whole.
You had who? You had what's up, Emmanuel?
Oh, I think they got confused because you said Jew and not Jewish.
Oh, Jewish. Yeah, Jewish. Yeah.
Cohen.
I know his name. All right, he had Emmanuel. He had a few people in his cabinet that were actually Jewish people that played a pivotal role. So part of you as an individual, you have to be intelligent enough to navigate your path. You have to be a person that is be able to come with other people and dictate what direction you're going into. All right. And so now they had a fear that Israelites were around because at the time, let's look at the Middle Netter, let's look at language, all that. These are Afro-Asiatic languages. They carry similar vocabulary words, right? What is one of the most dominant languages in Africa right now? Swahili. You know, Swahili has a plethora of root Hebrew words. Mm-hmm. So these are Afro-Asiatic. So they feared the influence. You had a people called the Anu. The Anu people were people that came out from the east and came into Egypt at this time. So Egypt was being flooded with other and foreign people, right? So keep this in mind. Foreign people are starting to flood Egypt, and now they're scared that these people can start to take over, all right? Mm-hmm. Who holds most of the power in America? Not really. I'm talking about who holds most.
The Jewish.
No. Financial power. Who holds most of the power in the government? In America.
Power like influence?
Influence. Financial. Yeah. We hold a lot of power. I would say we hold a lot of people. The people is mainly us. If they control us, then they have so much power. And this is why everything in your culture, you notice that if you speak about something, and all of a sudden it becomes a trend. They start to create trends off of what you like or what you think you like. Now you can go into a store now and pick up a shirt with an Egyptian pharaoh on it. It wasn't like that 10 years ago. Why?
It became popular.
It wasn't popular.
Would you say the people or the typical American, like white, male, Christian? Hold on.
Good. All right. So I wouldn't differentiate between. I would differentiate between two, but I would say this. I would say us as people of color and power because look at it. Let's look at Egypt. Take that for example. The Egyptian pharaoh it always was symbolized with a crook and a flail, right? And those are two shepherd tools. Egyptians wasn't high shepherds. They wasn't shepherds, but they were influenced by shepherds. And I said American society is the same way. It's influenced by shepherds or black people. They mimic us. They want the lips done. They want their bodies done. Everything about us. But then they also hold us or try to attempt to hold us down because they don't want to see us grow. So this whole thing with the Bible, once the Bible started becoming a tool of power, they started removing it out of the school system because the Bible was always in the school system. In fact, all of our academias, all of our colleges was based off of what? The churches.
Church and state.
Religious institutions.
That's why the cap and gowns look like that.
That's what I was going to go into. That's why the cap and gowns look like that, because it was a religious institution of Catholicism. So now when we start to go in it, this is when you start to go. All educated people used to go to the church. So now they're trying to separate it because they don't want you to realize that it was the Bible was the source of their information of growing in knowledge. So now they start to take Big Bang and they remove God. But then even if you go into the Big Bang Theory, you start to see on the side of what they call the WMAP map, it's called quantum fluctuation. Quantum fluctuation is the idea that in order to create something, you have to have the rules and regulations to create it. So before there was a Big Bang, there was an entity or some knowledge of what it needed in order to grow or to develop itself. All right? So y'all keep that in mind. Go ahead.
Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses.
What happened with people that's being afflicted?
They have babies because that's their only form of recreation.
Yeah, they have babies. They start to have more and more babies. So what they thought, what they do to destroy them, and populate them more. So in America, when we was on these plantations, they started beating us. You know what I mean? We working hard. All we do is make babies.
It's free.
Yeah. And it's something we can do. Ain't nobody gonna, and the master gonna love it. But we started to produce, but they started to chastise us and to give us more burden. Because one of the things that America's based off is dual income of a family. What does that mean, young people, not old people? Dual income, a dual income family.
I'm not old. Right. Where income comes from two people.
Well, since you say young
two people, right?
Split.
So normally in mother and father, right? So normally in black communities, or they try to tell us, because that's even false in a way, is that it's only either the mother or the father, right? Usually it's the mother, right? So what does the mother have to do in order to provide?
Work home.
Get a job.
Outside of.
How many jobs?
Two. At least two.
At least two, right? Two jobs, right? So where's the mother? Where's the parent in the house?
There's no parent in the house.
There's no parent in the house.
The TV.
And so if you understand how society started to develop and society started to grow, in order for mathematics, science, and all this to come into play, there had to be a surplus of food. Meaning that food was so abundant, you didn't have to work so hard anymore. So when that food is abundant, now you can start thinking about what? Other stuff. Art, science, math, start creating. So now us as a people, we're so subjected to burden in a way, but not to put it on you, but I want you to see how the system works. We're so subjected to some of these burdens that we don't have time to create. Who leads society? The creator, which I mean, when I mean a creator, an innovator, a person that innovates, right? So people that lead society are the innovators. So most of us don't have time to innovate because we're so overburdened that we don't have time to think of good ideas. Most people that work a 9 to 5 and work hard, because you all got to work hard. That's what we're talking about in Goshen, is working hard. But most people that work 9 to 5, they don't build their own businesses up. Why?
They don't have time.
They barely have time. But now you do have time in a way, but you're sort of a victim of distractions. Name some of the distractions that distract you. Social media. Huh? TV. Your phone.
People.
Video game.
Other people.
Other people.
Fear.
Fear. Is that something? What is that? So all of this stuff is the distraction. The art of distraction is the most powerful thing in the world. So now we chase distractions. And most people say, if you tell them, hey, read this book. You give somebody a book to read, say, yo, some good information in it, and you let them borrow the book and they didn't read it. What's their biggest excuse?
I have time.
I didn't have time. Is that true?
No.
No. What should they say?
I didn't make time to do it.
I didn't make time to do it. I was distracted.
I have things I'd rather do.
I have things I'd rather do. So why do I say that? Because it puts power back onto us. It gives us back our power. We have to be able to prioritize what is important to us. All right, continue.
But the more they were afflicted, the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. The Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor.
All right. What does that sound like to anybody? If you can pinpoint something that's going on today, what does that sound like? What country and what group of people?
Say it again.
What does that sound like? When you hear that, how does that relate to today? Black people? But more so, they can't really do it openly to black people as much as they used to. So who do they use? Mexican, Hispanics. They're becoming too much. They're becoming too powerful. They're becoming this. And so now, in order for you to be able to chastise a community or hold them down, you have to create a stigma about them. You have to create a phobia. So they're this and that. They're unintelligent. The thugs are coming over here. They're doing this. But America really survives off of what? Mexican labor. Yeah. Yeah. You go to any job, you have a white man sitting there, and he has a bunch of immigrants working for him. And they're working in some of the greatest buildings and some of the greatest law firms. So it's a distraction, but it's helping you to create a stigma or phobia about these individuals so you persecute them yourself. Because you cannot persecute a people unless they have something about them. In ancient times, and children, listen, I know it may be hard to grasp, but they used to create a phobia about the Eastern people from the East in Egypt having sex with Egyptian people, Egyptian women. So you know what they used to do to some foreigners? Castrate them. What does that mean? Take off their sexual organs. Because they created a phobia. Oh, if we allow them to do this, we allow them to do that. And that is part of some of Abraham's fear of coming into certain foreign places because they created phobias about people. America has created phobias about every single other nation. Every single nation.
Terrorists.
Because though they accept them, but you have a view about them. Even you, the person that appears to be at the lowest of the totem pole, you still got these stereotypes that the elite have. We talk about this, the cheeky eye, the Chinaman, this and that. The Chinaman has dominance in your community. Now, let me ask you a question. Is it an accident that Arabs run corner stores and the Chinese people own the boutiques and the hair salons and all that, and the nail salons? Is that an accident? Think about it. What does that mean they had?
That mean they had a plan.
They had a plan.
Because that's really cultural. Like, it's cultural. I'll give you a story, right? I had this one student in my class. He wanted to go to high school, finish high school, and go to college. His father was like, that's stupid. I could give you a story. You could be making $100,000 right now. You know how to add and subtract. That's all you need. Think about that. Think about it. Their mindset is completely different. He want to go to school to get a job to work for somebody else. His pop's like, you already can add and subtract. You could be making $100,000 right now. You see, but what happens is still, even though they have that culture, what changes is the fact that everybody in America becomes Americanized because America is the dominant culture where we are. So then the things and the ambitions that we shoot for, it don't really match up with our goals per se. So like if he want to be rich, right? But he don't want to just be rich. He want to be rich in a prestigious area. You understand? So he want to, but if he was smart, he could have just got his money and made it so fancy, right? But he want a fancy job, but he's gonna go to school, run up his student loan. I mean, he's not earning all those years. All those years he's in school, he's not earning, right? And then he's going to have to get a job, work for somebody else. When in actuality, he's taking wealth out from his own family because his pops could have just gave him a store. So that's how you see everybody becomes Americanized. Nobody's immune to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's go to Psalms 83. I'm going to read it. You don't have to turn. It's Psalms 83. All right. And my book might be slightly different. That's why I'm trying to use this book no more. But a song of Asaph. O Elohim, do not hold your silence. Be not deaf and be not still. Listen, everybody. I want you to listen because these things are important. The book is so powerful. It's telling you what's going on today. O Elohim, for behold, your foes are in an uproar, and those who hate you have raised their head against your people. They plot deviously. They take counsel against those sheltered by you. They said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, so Israel's name will be not remembered any longer. For they take counsel together unanimously. They strike a covenant against you. What is that? What does that say? Young people, what is it you think that's saying?
Well, they're just plotting. All their plans are to make sure you fail so they can succeed.
So when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking like somebody said, yo, let's take over them and we split it up. You get the hair salons, you get the corner stores with bodegas, you get this, you get that. That sounds like it's something that they plan out. Because it's conveniently, they did it this way. You don't see many Arabs running beauty supply, and they can do that anyway. All it takes is an investment. They're not doing it. They had taken counsel and said, yo, let us do it like this. Let's do it like this. You got this. I'm not gonna mess with you. You get them from this angle. I take the leg. You take the arm, and you take the abs or whatever. However you separated it. Now who did it? Right? Let's go. Hold on. For they take count. All right. The tents of Edom and Ishmael and Moab, the Hagarites, Gabal, Ammon, Amalek, Philistine, and the inhabitants of Tyre. Now, which names do you remember in this? And you can identify. Moab. Who you say Moab is? Some of the Arabs. Ishmael.
Arabs.
Some of the Arabs. And some people I'm starting to go back to, but some people believe that associate Moab with some of the mongrels or the Asiatic people, right? Then you got Edom, who we identify as the red hair people or the elite class. So the book is telling you who chopped this up, who chopped it up, and made sure that, because things that even happened in the time of Israel is still happening now. They did not give, see, you think that they're not, the Quran is different than the Torah in the Christian Bible? Absolutely not. They only took books that they separated and they split up amongst each other. Have anybody ever read the Quran? You tried to, right? It's hard, right? It's hard to read. It's hard to read. But the Quran is actually the lost books you start to see in some of the Apocrypha and Pseudepigrapha. It's the same stories. They divided up these books amongst each other. So they took your heritage, your nationality, your information, divided amongst each other, and they said, we're going to supplant you. But that's a bad thing, but it's a good thing when you realize how much what you have. Power. Everybody are plotting against you. That's a good thing. That means you need to wake up to be powerful. You need to make up and do great things. Continue, go back to the question.
And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage and mortar and in brick, and all manner of service in the field, and all their service, when they made them serve, was with rigor.
So why is the book saying the same thing over and over again? Now it's talking about, it's more detailed. It's talking about they brick more, that they got to do this, they got to do that, they got to do that, because they got to keep you working hard in order to keep you away from freedom and liberation. Jacob and Esau. Who was the harder worker, it appears? Physically. Who supplanted?
Jacob.
Why?
Smart. Cunning.
Huh?
Cunning.
The mind. What's power? What's more powerful? The mind. You always get mad at your job. You're like, they don't do half the amount of work we do. You know, the guy, the boss, he don't do this, he don't do that, he don't do that. He don't have to do it. Why?
You doing it.
Because he's the mind. And I had this discussion with Saul Shemot, and he was like, man, we work for these people, this and that, this and that. We alphas, we alphas, we alphas. Maybe alpha ain't what you think it is.
Maybe there's types of alpha, right?
Yeah, there's different types of alpha. You alpha, we alpha, but we working for somebody else, or we in debt to somebody else. That means that, hey, then maybe the person that we're in debt to is alpha. So the book is hinting to you that it's not just the physical or the capabilities to do something, but it's also empowered by the what?
Mental.
The mind. So at the time we went into Egypt, we were capable of overthrowing, but as a collective group, we weren't, because we still had our negative flaws. So now they begin to empower us. And I read, I think it was in the book of Yashar, where they agreed with Israelites to say, hey, let's go do this. They do this. Let's work together. Let's work together. And then at the last minute, they started to pull out. They started to pull out back and further, and Israel ended up becoming slaves. Who built this country?
We did.
We did. And before it was built, it was people, our people, that built this country. Yeah. Aztecs, Mayans, Incas, whatever you call them. This was a flourishing nation. We are dominant. Go ahead.
That shows the importance of planning past the moment, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That shows the importance of planning past the moment. Because they dominant, and they had the whole country, and a smaller population came in and took over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something went really wrong. You gotta plan past the moment. Like, even when you live in now, you gotta plan for the next generation. Understand? You gotta plan past Saturday night or the weekend. Otherwise, you're gonna realize that your plans are gonna remain only thoughts. So what he said was right. Like, your mind is powerful, but your mind is only powerful if you put those thoughts into actions, right? If you leave your thoughts only as thoughts, then nothing manifests. Like, the smartest person in the world, they can have every answer to every problem, but if they never do anything with it, it'll never get solved, right? You understand?
Okay.
How many of y'all have all these brilliant ideas? How many of y'all left 10 ideas behind and didn't work on it? A little less than 10? Close to it, right?
Yeah.
10 ideas. Have you ever had an invention in your mind that you've seen on Shark Tank? Anybody watch Shark Tank? Shark Tank is like a little invention thing. It was things I seen and we said that we should have did it and we didn't do it. What was the difference between me and the person that didn't do it?
They did it.
They had drive. So it's the mind and the drive. It's the balance between the two. It's to think of it and then do it. And this is how Goshen is successful in a way. Because it's not based off of people that don't do, it's based off of people that do. You know, even like Lassie Rob, sometimes he has a vision and he sees something out, and guess what? He's not sidetracked. You ever seen a horse? You ever seen black things on the side of the horse face? What is that? What do they call that?
Blind.
Why?
To give them that tunnel vision.
Stay focused. Stay straight forward. Because other things lead to what?
Distraction.
Distractions. And even if you fail in your attempt, you're still successful. Prince, you failed a lot?
Yeah, of course. But it only takes one thing to work. right? Only one thing gotta work for something to turn out great, right?
Explain it.
Like for example, like I'll give an example. I talk about business because y'all can relate to that, right? So like for example, my first business I had, I made $0.00, and they gave me a business credit card, and I bought a truck, put in rims and TVs, right? So you stupid sometimes, right? Would have been better to finance it. Another time I started a business, made no sales whatsoever. But the thing that you got to keep in your mind is this: if anybody did anything, that's proof that it's doable, right? People like to imagine that people are special, but nobody's really that special. If you're in a room with 50 millionaires and you having a conversation with them, you'll be like, oh, these really regular people, right? What happens is that we psych ourselves out so that we think it can't be accomplished because maybe the people right around us didn't accomplish it. But if anything was accomplished by a human, then it could be accomplished by you. There's no exception to that whatsoever. If there's somebody that's bench pressing 500 pounds and you want to bench 500 pounds, you can bench 500 pounds. They probably juicing anyway. You understand? There's always a way to do it. Anything that ever been done can be done. If there's a people that created a nation, a real whole nation with politics and economics, that was done by regular people. There's nothing special about them. Look, and to go so deep, y'all probably not gonna like this, but even Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, all of them was regular people. They had mothers, they had fathers, they had to get potty trained, they had to get their butt wiped. Regular people. Some of them probably didn't do all their classes right in school. I guarantee you some of them talk slick to their parents sometime, right? But it was all regular people. Anything that was accomplished by regular people, which means that anything that was ever accomplished, you can really accomplish. It's not a pep talk that I'm giving you. It's just a statement of fact. Anything that was accomplished by anybody, you could do it. But the question is, what are you willing to give up for it, right? Because everything that you get, you have to give something up for it. There's no exception. If you want to be the best basketball player in the world, who's Larry Bird? He's not even that nice, but he was white boy nice because he had the J's. He said before school every day, he used to shoot 100 free throws, right? And then every time we talk about Larry Bird, they give him the ball, he pretty much gonna hit it. Because every day, every single day before school, practice. Kobe, same way, practice. LeBron, same way, practice. Anything you want to do, you got to give up something. I mean, you got to give up sleeping in late sometime, right? You're going to have to give up playing a video game sometime. You're going to have to give up hanging out with your friends sometime because you can't have everything all across. But anything you acquire, you have to give up something for it. Then the only question is, what are you willing to give up for what you want to have? You understand? If you're not willing to give something up, then you don't deserve it. There's no exception. Even if it's your wife. You know, sometimes like no sexes. You know, women wanna and you too. So sometimes we gotta be like, I understand. You don't understand. You don't know. You want to be quiet. You understand? But to preserve the union, you gotta give up. So just like when your husband ego tripping and you know he wrong. Right. You know he wrong. Not maybe he wrong. You know he wrong. He 100% wrong, and he was wrong about it a long time. And then for the sake of the marriage, you just shut up. Okay, I'm gonna skip this argument. You want some tea? You understand what I'm saying? Because everything you got to get it in your mind. Because it's not America. I took over your class. I'm gonna stop. But like in America, they don't teach us that. That's right. You have to give up something to get something. They teach you have everything, but that don't make sense. And if you want to even finish a degree, you gotta do homework when your friends chilling. Yeah. If you want to finish high school and get good grades, you gotta do homework when you want to be at the next game. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? There's no way around it. Yeah. Huh? If you want your dreads tight, you got to twist it up. There's anything you want, you got to give something up for it. You got to get it in your head. You're not going to be able to have everything. You're going to have what you want, and you're going to have to give up something for it. There's no exception. There's no exception. So if you want something, but you're not willing to give up something, you don't want it or deserve it. You don't deserve it. If you don't want it enough to give something up for it. That's true.
Hallelujah.
And that's why you see in the book there's so much dealing with sacrifice. Sacrifice is not just the fact that it's animals that's being given up, it's the fact that it's about something that you want or you desire, or something that you love. Because the Hebrew word for demons is what? Shadim. And what's the word shadim come from? It comes from the word shad, shadayim. Come from breast. Things that you nurture yourself with, things that you pacify yourself with, are the things that distract you from the divineness of God. So your demons may not be something that got you shaking and trembling in your chair, like, oh, but it's certain things that you allow yourself to just be so clingy to or attached to stop you from the progress of growing into the Elohim state or the consciousness of God. And when I say Elohim state, you'll never become God, but God says that some of those people that are in his stead or divinely inspired are like unto God. So there's something to consider. Hallelujah.
And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other was Puah. And he said, when ye do the office of the midwife to a Hebrew woman, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared Elohim, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, and saved the men children alive.
So they're saying Shiphrah and Puah were just Hebrew Israelite midwives. And that shows you, that brings you back to our culture. And let's go into birthing strategies, right? In birthing, who are the modern day midwives that don't need to be? And I know that's a broad question. All right, so most of the time when we talk about women make their men midwives. Culturally, that was not the case. Most of the time, in most cultures, men weren't even allowed in the room when women were giving birth.
They were in a whole other tent.
Yeah, they were in a whole other tent, and women gave birth. So a lot of times society pushes on these things where you go to the what's the class called? The Lamaze class, and you got to breathe with her. You got to do all of this. But the problem with that is there's people that's not objective that's involved. So when you have two people that's subjective to a thing, they have the same concerns and they have the same panics. So it makes the pregnancy dangerous. You have to have somebody that's outside, that's not so subjected to the emotional standpoint of the family, and say, hey, no, we good here, and have the know-how. Because a lot of times, most parents, are we fine? Are we okay? How do you have a man trying to coach a wife when he's panicking just like the woman?
Right.
So we got to go back to the cultural norms. We need our midwives. We need things like that. And our sisters to protect that aspect of who we are, because we are divine individuals, and this is some of the culture. So the midwives fear God. And one thing about the midwife story that you may not look is that Egyptians almost less than, if you gave birth then, you had a 30% chance of your child survival. That's horrible. That is horrible. So much that they created a God that protected you when you were giving birth, Hathor. So it's supposed to be a God that protect you. A lot of times people deify things that they have problems with. So if you have issues in certain things in life, they create a God to maybe protect you, or create some kind of ornament or some kind of thing to help you understand. So now the midwifery thing is very important, because our sisters, even if you're not a midwife, you have to be associated with our sisters that are pregnant and go out your way to make sure that they're comfortable. Because one of the worst things a person could do is lose something and have a miscarriage or lose a child, because that hurts and it traumatizes the individual. So when our young women, or our women, our older women, our middle-aged women are having birth, then that's who we cater to, especially sisters. You take care of that. Y'all take care of that sister.
As women, we're actually natural doulas. You know what I mean? Because we've already,
Experienced
some of us,
it.
especially if we've experienced it, we're naturally gonna adapt to another sister, or gravitate to her and give her advice, or just be there to console. You know, whether it's a good or bad outcome. So a lot of times, you know, they have these doula trainings, but a lot of it comes from just community living, or sisters having a strong sisterhood where they communicate with one another and they bond, and it's naturally there, where the men don't have to actually be present, but the sisters are there to help each other. I think we talked about this in our conversation about like the natural doulas of being there when your sister has a baby and being there for the family, because even though the woman had the baby, the father is there trying to help the woman, and then the other children are there. So to have a sisterhood or other sisters to come and help provide food or whatever, help clean the house while that family is being introduced to a new addition, you know, that's part of a natural way that we should continue to be, or, you know, take back up as a practice.
So do y'all think doulas was something that was just created from the beginning of existence, or it was an adaptation?
I think it's adaptation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So it was an adaptation, and you said it to community living. Mm-hmm. Community, you figured out that that's what needed to be done. That was something that had to be done, and we have to realize that, because it's so empowering. How unnatural it is for somebody to be going in birth, and you're speeding 60 to going 80 miles down the street, 90 miles, trying to rush a person to a hospital. Is that good for birth?
No.
That's traumatizing.
That's right.
Yeah. How about this? You about to have a baby?
Yes. You trying to figure out what's wrong.
Yeah.
You lose
straps that you gotta
concentration.
keep, you gotta stay
Every time
still
you
and
move,
they keep moving.
Yeah.
Every time you move, it goes off, and they're running inside telling you the baby's heart rate is off.
Right.
But that's just you panicking, and then the
Because
baby's
of the
panicking on the
noises.
inside because of
Yeah.
all the noises. Yeah.
Yep. And it makes you lose your focus of what you're what you're practicing to or bringing out is the birth of your child. And you and the child are actually supposed to be at one at this moment. But everything else around you is distracting you. So, yeah.
Yeah. Continue. Blessings. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have you done this thing? And have saved the children alive. And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, but they are lively and deliberate ere the midwives come into them.
Message. What's the message?
We gave birth by ourselves. We didn't even need. Yeah, it's natural.
We gave birth by ourselves. But what was Pharaoh trying to take over? Our births. Mm-hmm. Our birthing techniques. Did he do it?
No.
To us, did he do it?
Yeah.
They have absolute control of our birth technique. That's the first thing they went for. Our births. And to destroy the male child. Destroy the male child. Give him this. Make him more feminized. Give him this. Matter of fact, girl, ain't no man can tell you how to create a baby. You got the choice, pro-choice, this and that, power to the thing. And you go, like, you're right. I'm going in there to kill this baby now.
The baby didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Roe versus Wade.
How corrupt can that be? You see how the tactics are the same. It's no different. The Bible's a living book. It's a living book. All you have to do is read it and breathe it and become a part of it, and you'll understand it's the same thing. They wanted to take control. Pharaoh's first move was to take control of the birth. And you remember in the Bible when it says the beef between Eve and the serpent, or the serpent and her seed, would be that she bruised the head and pricks the heel, or bites the heel. First thing when that baby come out, they come and let you touch it a little bit. First thing they do is draw blood from the heel. It's the system. They know it. See, sometimes you got to say the system is living. You got to bring that Bible to life. You got to bring that Torah to life. Once the Torah become living to you, then you start to understand, hey, these are our warnings. Yeah. Go ahead.
And therefore Elohim dealt with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared Elohim, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all the people, saying, you tell somebody nowadays you got 6 children, what they say? That's a lot.
Good Lord. Good Lord.
How you feed all them children?
Again, y'all don't got no TV.
Hey, y'all don't have
But in ancient tribes, when you have children, you have power.
Yes.
Because you have workers. And now the Almighty has led many people to give you a land where you can have children to give you power if you utilize them right to utilize the land and figure out how to work the land. So children are supposed to be educated, but especially your male child, he's supposed to be educated through his hands. A male child shouldn't be sitting in no school, and I'm not going to say to take him out of school at all. That's not what I'm saying. Please believe that. But what I'm saying is, a male child, his math comes from his hands. Sometimes they're not getting the math because what? It's supposed to be active in their hands. Give them measurements, give them things, and they learn how to figure these things out. They're supposed to be doing things. That's the child's education. Their hand is supposed to be in the dirt, in the earth. These are the things that we got to think about. And this is just regular living. This ain't even like the divine living we're talking about. We're just talking about basic living. It's like, oh, I eat my own food. That's power. It is. But now it's time when you get you get that foundation, you get the rudimentary aspect of a community, then you move on to the spiritual aspects of the community. You can tell a man all you want. If he ain't eating, he ain't trying to hear about God. He learn how to survive. What?
And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born be cast into the river, and every daughter you shall slave alive.
Pharaoh's mad, ain't he? Throw these babies in the river. I don't give a dang what you eat. You can see him now, flipping over Anubis chess tables and just going crazy. He's mad. No, we need to get these people out of here. It's the mindset. And you look at Trump. All Trump talk about is Mexicans. Getting them out of here. We're going to build a wall. We're going to do this. It's all an illusion just to get you to hate Mexicans. Right. Trump don't believe in that stuff.
You know the government shut down, right? I feel like that's almost a hoax for them to keep people's income tax return a little longer, right? Because why does it shut it down right at the end of December?
It happens all the time.
So they can slow down people's income tax return, make it look like the economy says something. But I just got conspiracy theories. Though,
No.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, why the timing always now, though, right?
And our good president, George W. Bush, gave us the extra. No. Gave us a little extra. Thank you, George W. Bush.
Gave you back what you spent. That's it.
What was called? The stimulus.
Stimulus.
That was a scam too.
I know it was scary.
Because you know, if you give poor people $700, that thing's gone that week.
Yeah.
So who'd you really give the money to?
Right back.
It's the government. It's the government. And I was reading, and it was a statement by Damon Dash, right? And I think he says he was talking to a Jewish guy, and he was like, we call black people liquid. Because as soon as you give them something, it pours right through their hands and goes right back to us. He says they give it to everybody but their own community.
Sure.
That's what Damon Dash said. And it's something to think about when y'all always chasing these shoes, these clothes, and this and that. And you know, me and Precious talking about it. Why you buy this stuff? Make your own. What's better than you making your own? What's better than people you flooding out there, and then half of the time you rocking Versace's, you rocking this, you rocking that, and these people are gay and they making money off you. They making money. Cheers. They happy making money off of Israelites. We pro-black, we pro this. Pro-black mean you support. Nationalism mean you're doing whatever it takes to make your community survive and support one another. That's what nationalism is. To make sure that your tribal identity does not go down the drain into a higher social construct. And this is something that we have to understand as individuals. You got to make the norm. What's that you wear? I don't know. I never heard that, but yeah. What it is. What are you talking about? When you talking to Kai? Hebrew Fresh. So what's that? Hebrew Fresh. He said, what Hebrew Fresh? Oh, that's whack. It costs $200. Oh, word? Okay, Hebrew Fresh. You know, because you gotta put a high price on stuff, right? Once you put a high price on stuff, black people love it.
Yeah, because they think
Yeah. This is something special, man. It's Hebrew Fresh, man. This is you gotta work a week and a half to get this. Right. You know what I mean? I mean, this is how our people think, right? Yeah. And you think about we was talking about Chris Webber. Chris Webber was with Nike, and his sneaker was $170, and his sneakers was fly. Oh, you know, fly. They was nice, right? And he said, I'm not going to charge my people that much. So he went to a lower brand. I forgot what brand it was, and he was charging $40 for a sneaker. People bought it?
Nope.
And then Shaq left up because he didn't market the black people.
Yeah.
He went from what was he with Reebok?
He went to Walmart.
He went to Payless. Oh yeah, he went to Walmart. Yep, he went to Walmart. And Shaq made more money in Walmart
Yeah.
than anything. Explain that to them. What are you talking about?
Oh, Payless, y'all heard about the Payless thing?
Yeah.
Alright, boom.
Yeah.
This is what they did. They did like a pop-up shop and they were bringing the regular Payless shoes there. I got some social media influencers to come say it was fire. Change the name to Palessi. And then people were willing to pay $200, $300, $400, $500, $600 for the same shoes that was $20 just because they changed the name of it.
So they
And
said
have people say that it
$20
was
to
cool.
$30 to Palessi,
Crazy.
and now they charge you $200 and eat it up.
It's crazy. And it probably was made for $5 in China, right?
You
Some
said
child labor or
Gucci, right?
something, right?
In a way, but it isn't because all of us chase the higher standard
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. The name alone, you're gonna be like, oh, I wonder what that is.
Especially men. You don't want no shoes that you get from the corner store or this and that. You're not gonna want that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you're not getting gas station. They look just alike. They look just alike. They got a little different man on there. Yeah.
Don't do that.
She said,
Look
"Look
good,
but it's
I was thinking about it. I think I put a patch on one of them joints or something. But look at Damon Dash. What Damon Dash bought? What shoe he bought?
Was it football?
Fubu.
No.
Fubu is,
It was like Lotto. Remember the Lotto?
what?
He bought an old cheap sneaker and he made it like a Rockaway sneaker.
What did it sell?
Yeah. Oh, we had Rockaway. Everybody had Rockaway. Don't blame.
I ain't never had no Rockaway.
Yeah, you may not have.
Rockaway, you was big.
Rockaway's good.
That's that New York thing. Atlanta, we was Fila, Tommy, Polo, you know.
Yeah. Continue.
And it went a man of the house of Levi, and took a wife of the daughter of Levi, and the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him, and he was
Okay, it says a man of the house of Levi, he took a wife from the house of Levi. What are they implying? Why are they saying this?
Stick to your own.
Yeah. He took a house from his own nation, his own tribe, rather.
I mean, they talking about the purity of the Levitical
Yeah.
bloodline, the purity. So that's something to consider. All right.
And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes and dabbed it with slime. And his sister stood afar off, and with what would be done.
Now this seems stupid, right? Most people are like, you put your baby, you just taking your baby, and you put them in the river, and you this and that, and then you get the Prince of Egypt and all this miracles around it. But when you did this ancient customs, this is almost a form of what? Adoption. You put your child in the river, and it was done. Even Sargon the Great was considered to be put in a basket and floated down the river, and he was adopted. This is a typical custom of people in ancient times. But it takes a great deal of faith. Yeah. No, it takes a great deal of faith.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about it, animals do good with babies, bro.
They do.
One thing you realize, animals.
Crocodile eat a human baby, man. That's how
I know.
They did.
On multiple.
But this baby was protected.
You know, it's divinity. It's divinity. That's why I said take a large feeling of faith.
Yeah.
You know.
Complete faith.
What I'm looking for is you said 2 what?
Chapter 2, verse 5 now.
All right. Well, continue with you.
And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river. And her maidens walked along by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she opened it, she saw a child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, "This one is a Hebrew. This is one of the Hebrew children."
Mm-hmm.
Then said his sister of the third.
How did she know that?
His blanket.
His look.
His blanket.
He's a circumcised, blanket.
And why would an Egyptian put their baby in the river?
Yeah. But he had to look, huh? I don't think they looked different. I think they had it just different.
Well, there's no doubt.
Why would there be an Egyptian baby in the basket?
The trick to learning the Bible is asking why. That's the whole thing.
Because there was a lot of times when they thought Hebrews were Egyptians.
But Egyptians were circumcised.
So,
They might not have been circumcised at their early.
Yeah.
They were adults when they were circumcised. And in Egypt, when you were circumcised, you were in the royal class. You were royalty. So your whole law is based off of ancient royal customs. So that's how powerful you are. You mighty, right? You powerful? Huh? Yeah. Yeah, you powerful. You gotta know you're powerful. You gotta know you're powerful. Good.
Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call thee a nurse of the Hebrew woman, that she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother.
Anybody know anything? Why would they call a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby?
Because they ain't nursing no Hebrew baby.
Why so? Huh? No, he might be right. It might be different type of milk. I might lean to that. I just haven't did the information on it.
They were the servant class.
Huh?
She didn't have breast milk. She wasn't
But
pregnant.
why would she go to a Hebrew?
Because
she knew it was a Hebrew baby.
Identified.
Hebrews were the servant class in general.
Yeah.
What?
I'm saying, but so why would she make sure the breast milk is Hebrew?
I mean,
Because
Well,
the
you know,
Egyptians probably ain't giving us out their royal milk.
before,
Right.
Also to
If
still
they didn't
protect
want to
that
sit,
baby.
if they didn't want to sit with the Hebrews, you know,
You
they
definitely ain't
Yeah.
breastfeeding them.
Right.
She don't got her milk. She don't got no milk.
That's a good point too.
So that's your breast milk is important, right?
Yeah.
Who said no? Who said no?
Almost.
Certain age.
Almost.
What age?
You good. That's the one you good.
No. Hebrew child should be breastfed for 3 years.
Ooh, I got 2 years. I had 2 years.
3 years.
I had 1 year.
The word weaning is higmal. It comes from the word
Gamal.
gamal, camel, which is number 3. And even when you read in the Apocrypha, it says 3 years to wean the child.
How does it look like Isaac was when he was born?
Huh?
It seemed like Isaac was older than 3 though.
Yeah, he might have been.
Yeah, yeah.
He might be.
Probably was pumping it, but
But you know, we see it as being wrong or corrupt, but this is what society wants us to do.
That's the actual purpose of breast anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
To
not
nourish
doing
the
it.
breastfeeding.
Okay. Sorry.
you can pump, give it to him.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if I'm producing enough milk, I'll
we
pump.
stopped because we stopped.
I didn't say breastfeed, latch the child to me. I would pump and give it to my child.
Now you ice cream.
No, that's not breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is breastfeeding. Drinking breast milk is different. There's a different terminology. Breastfeeding is is fed from the breast. If I'm able to do it, I will pump and give my children breast milk.
Okay.
If I'm able to.
No.
I would.
No, in some
I would.
traditions, in order to heal yourself, breast milk is one of the best things to do.
There's a different. Breastfeed is feeding from the breast. I'm not breastfeeding. If I was lactating enough, I would, and if they would take it, I would. I would pump and give them breast milk. I would.
One time we ran out of milk, my mother put it in the oatmeal.
She sure did. She did it to us too.
That oatmeal was good though.
She did it to us too. She sure did. Moradina, she sure did. Yeah, she sure did.
You don't know my mama.
She sure
No, it
did.
was a woman, right? It was a woman.
She sure did.
And she got busted on camera putting breast milk in the coffee of a worker. And I was like, that must be some good coffee. Like everybody else thought it was some negative stuff. I was like, that must be some good coffee.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, I
What
wouldn't
about
do
breast
it.
milk? What about the cow?
That's a good point too.
The cow.
You don't know what she's eating though. You're getting all of that back.
Grass.
Let me tell you something.
Asian stewardess. There was this Asian stewardess on a flight, and the baby started screaming. You know the.
Oh, I see that
mother had
article.
a
I see that article.
And the whole flight was upset, and the lady said, if you don't mind, you don't have any milk, can I take your baby to the back and I'll breastfeed? And the lady was like, would you? Oh, thank you.
Wow.
And
There
so
was
later
another
they
one, a
steered
cop
the
did
baby
that.
to the back.
A cop did that.
And settled the
It
baby.
was a lady cop. She nursed a baby. She found a baby and she ended up nursing the baby because the baby, they couldn't find a parent or whatever, but she had just had a baby.
I did it for my niece.
I did it for my
I did it for my
It's good for
Yeah,
brain
fair.
development too. With the fish.
No. She
And what?
She knows
Anyway.
cat.
Brain development.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're not smart. It means that you have to try harder. Children that's breastfed have larger.
Oh, you're not talking about for a certain amount of time. You just said breastfed children, period.
Because what a child needs for brain development is the fat that's in the breast milk. It's the fat that's in the breast milk. You don't get that from implement.
It's rich with omega. It's rich with omega 3.
And the woman's body makes natural antibiotics.
Yeah.
When your baby's sick, and the baby actually latches on, her breast pick up.
Yeah.
From the saliva.
And that's how you can tell too, a lot of babies that get immunized versus not immunized. When they get the breast milk and they're able to not get sick or is able to heal their illness quicker.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Ready? I'm like, I want some breast milk over there.
Yeah, but too late.
Oh, I do.
And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called his name Moses. She said, because I drew you out of water. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens, and spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren.
So did Moses know he was Hebrew?
Of course.
Yes.
Because he was breastfed by his
They say he looked into his brethren. They say he looked into his brethren. So he was breastfed, and the woman was there. She was telling him.
I don't think he was being breastfed and she wasn't teaching him who he was. Like, that would be.
Go ahead.
And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said,
Now, why is this act weird? Because most people that have acts of liberation, they're suppressed or suppressed by the government and stuff. What was weird about Moses' act of liberation?
He suppressed himself.
He had everything he wanted. He put his brothers and the struggle of his people before everything he had. He was in the highest place he could have been. So us, we different. We struggling. We need to fight Black Power. Troy Davis, we're fighting against the system because we're part of the system that's oppressing us. Moses was a part of the elite and gave up all his rights to free his people. That's something most people don't do. He didn't need circumstances to change him. He seen the struggle of his people and he dumbed himself down. And don't say dumbed himself down, but he stooped to a level of un-Egyptian of him to slay somebody that was oppressing his brother. He didn't beat him up and say, no, hey, Pharaoh, tell him don't put their hands on these people, please. Don't do it like that. He killed this man.
This is crazy how the two Hebrews pushed that on him.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Go ahead.
They were hating on him.
Yeah.
and he said to him that did the wrong, wherefore thou smitest thy fellow? And he said, who made it thee a prince and a judge over us?
All right, so now there's 2 Hebrews fighting now, right? And he's telling them don't fight. And he's saying, who made you a prince over us? What psychologically what's going on with
They were
these
jealous
guys?
of him. They were jealous of him.
And intendest thou to kill me as I killed the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known.
That was sick. He was a prince over them. Like, yo, I'm over you anyway. Like, what are you talking about? I'm Pharaoh's son. Like, what are you talking about? And like, who made you? We heard what you did. So now the oppressors is like, yo, you ain't nothing, man. You just like us.
Just like us.
We seen what you did, man. What make you different? And not the fact that you tried to help us. And one thing you're going to find out with the Goshen movement is going to be a lot of haters. They're going to say, what make y'all think y'all better? Because y'all drink fresh milk? Or
It's not going to work, y'all. Watch. It's not going to work.
You know what I had somebody tell me? They said, I show you how paralyzing fear is. I had somebody told me, he said, you know why I never joined that? Because whenever black people get together, the government come in and try to tear it down. Let me tell you what that is. Like with a mindset like that, you will
You're like a trap.
with a mindset like that, you'll never do anything.
Yeah,
right?
you fear.
Because it's like it's a self-defeating mindset.
Right.
Kind of like people when they say, when you got, that's like, remember I was talking about self-talk? right? It's like a self-defeating mindset. Like if you defeat yourself in your own mind before you even try, then you don't need an enemy. Right? You don't need anybody to hold you back if you won't try because your mind is telling you that it can't work. Right? So that just shows you how some of the mental programming got so far to the point that nobody has to destroy anything. People just won't try. They'll defeat themselves and then they'll never move forward. Yeah, so that's what he said. He said because whenever black people get together, the government's going to try to tear it down. And first of all, that's not true. Not always. Second of all, that ignores the fact that God is real. Right? So there's a lot of things in that, but I didn't say anything on it because everything's not for everybody. I said that's how you feel.
Good, and we don't want
that type of mentality. Yeah.
We only want it for the people. If you like, oh, I want to go to the city, I want to do this, I want to do that, go do that. You know, and one thing about Prince, I said about Nasik Rob. I don't think Nasik Rob, when we all first started, he was like, I'll be there in about a year and a half. And he started building, and he was here immediately. Ain't that right, Prince? Like, he was like about a year. He was like, yeah, about a year, I'll be there. But not. Like, bam, let's get it happening. And it became a drive. It's a drive. And that's one thing it tells me about when you're determined to do something, don't let people sidetrack you from doing it. People are going to try to hold you where they are at in their lives. Because our relationships are based off of patterns. People fall in love with the pattern of an individual. So when you start to grow, you ever notice you start doing stuff good in your life and people are like, oh, so you better than us now? Because they're used to your old pattern. They had a contractual agreement with the pattern that you gave them in the beginning. Now you came out of that pattern and created a new pattern. So people are like, no, you're that old pattern. I don't want to hear that crap. You're that pattern before. But this is the thing. It's always you have to create new patterns. There's an animal that's immortal. Anybody can name an immortal animal?
Lizard.
Lobster and what's the other one?
Immortal?
They don't die. Jellyfish.
You talking about the lion or?
They don't die. I mean, they can get killed, but they can live on forever. All right. There's a jellyfish. It's called the red scarlet jellyfish. And the funny thing about jellyfish is almost similar to the material in the human body that makes up the what?
DNA.
The brain.
Your nails and your hair.
No, the heart. A jellyfish is very similar to what makes up the human heart. And so what happens if a jellyfish get injured, it goes to the depths of the sea and it becomes a polyop. And when it becomes a polyop, it heals itself. So almost that's in the lesson of itself. The polyop means it goes into its childhood state. So in order for you to heal, you have to go into your childhood state and see what causes you the destruction in order to heal. So immortality or ultimate health is dealing with things of your past that you haven't dealt with. So when I talk about immortality and I'm talking about the things that we could change, it's to go into a state. When Moses went into that state, he remembered who nourished him. He remembered everything. There was a part of him that realized why I'm this way. He realized I'm this way because that's not me. I am not this. Even he rode in the best chariots you could believe, right? Assumedly, right? He had the best everything. That wasn't enough for him. That did not fulfill his desire. You wouldn't kill no other man if you were happy. Moses wasn't happy, huh? He wasn't happy at all. He wasn't happy at all because it's not always about your social status, and social status is good, but you want your people to come along with you. Right. See, when we talk about blacks, yeah, you can be wealthy, I can make it in society. That's an egotistical mindset of an individual. We are all collectively a whole people. So don't talk about progression of blacks in America, and you talking about progression, show me communities, show me towns, show me cities. Show me things where we're working together. And this is something that we are producing with beyond a shadow of a doubt. We are not about the individualism. Because it's gone. It's about unified collective goals and doing something that's great. Everybody can do the things that they talk about doing, but we're talking about a community. We're talking about loving each other where that head wrap is not a funny towel on somebody's head.
It's not a joke.
Yeah. Well, these garments on the men are not skirts. But everybody is comfortable in being who you are. Your lips are not too big. Your nose is not too big. You know what I mean? Like, these are the things that we have to understand as people. You have to create an environment where we don't have low self-esteem. Because when we have high self-esteem, we're unstoppable. But
now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters.
And look at it, it's a salt papyrus. P-S-A-L-T, the salt papyrus is what describes Moses. It is Moses at the time, and it talks about how not Akmoses, but Akmoses. It's talking about Akmesi or Akmoses, where they slay an individual, but he justifies the fact where he puts to death a overseer over the slave, and people couldn't believe that. They couldn't understand it. So this is in Egyptian inscriptions. It's called the salt papyrus. I forgot the number to it because I haven't looked at it in a while. But it's the salt papyrus, and it's P-S-A-L-T, salt papyrus. And it shows that there was a ruler that put the slave master or the foreman to death over the slave. And his name was Akmesi, and the rival pharaoh, the young pharaoh that was with him, not the brother of the pharaoh, was called Seti. I think Seti II. So you can check it out when you get time. It's all documented. It's all history. Go ahead.
And they came and drew water and filled their troughs to water their father's flock.
So now he on the run now. Now he on the run. But why would God visit somebody that's on the run?
That's the lowest state.
God said he speaks to people with a broken heart and a contrite spirit. He gets you at your lowest state. Not only that, you in the wilderness, you running like, you ain't running like up the street. You ran from Egypt to Midian. That's a run. And then what you in tune with as you going through all this? The world, nature, you start to self-reflect. When you start to self-reflect, you start to see God. See, there's an aspect inside of you that interfaces with everything in this world. Let me ask you a question. When you sleep, you see things, right? Mm-hmm. Do you see it with your eyes?
No.
When you sleep, you hear things. Do you hear with your ears? How's that possible? You understand what I'm saying? There's a soul. There's something inside of you that nourishes you. There's something that really doesn't depend on the organs inside of you. It shows you that clearly. It's empowering. And we have to realize that there's something inside of you. When you sleep, is somebody talking in your ear telling you all this stuff going on? Yeah, I'm just talking to you and this stuff. You got detailed visions about what's going on because your brain is creating it because it's trying to give you a message. You have a spiritual interface because your interface between atoms and all the cells and electrons begin to travel. They can be at 2 places at once. So electron starts to interface. You can see a human, and if you're in tune with yourself, you can pick up what's wrong with them. Have you ever had a feeling? And mothers they have this down pat that they know that their baby need to eat. Why? When they far away from them.
Your breast starts to fill up.
Your breast starts to fill up. You start to, and then you start to lactate. You start to, you know what I mean. So there's this interface that's distant from an individual that they know that they connected to somebody. Have you ever felt somebody thinking about you?
Yes. Yeah, that's a real thing.
Yeah, how is that possible?
And it's funny. Every time I call my mother, she'll say, "Oh my God, I was just thinking to call you." That happens a lot. I was just thinking about you, and I was just thinking about you, and you called me.
But you know when that happens? When you're in thought. Yeah. When you have time with yourself, you can pick up on stuff. The art of America is distraction. We doing it on computer, games, phones, social media. How many times do we think of self? Do you know that in a human brain, there's no aspect of the brain that sees you different than everything else? You're actually wired to interface with everything as one whole. Creating a self-identity is something that happened over time. Where it's just me. But in reality, you can see why in tribal and Afro-Asiatic tribes, that we were so in tune with the whole tribe. We didn't move differently than what the tribe told us to do. We moved collectively because we are branding our tribe and protecting it. Goshen is the same way. You just can't come in here and do whatever you want. We have to protect our tribe. What does our tribe need? Does our tribe need that? Does our tribe need this? Question. Where we at?
Verse 17.
And where does the portion in?
Chapter 6.
Right.
And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, how is it that ye came so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hands of the shepherds.
Now, I'm telling you, this just popped in my head. At first he was a Hebrew, now he's an Egyptian.
Because how he was dressed.
What I mean is like, when he was a baby, they identified him being the Hebrew. And when he's in Midian, they identify him as being the Egyptian. It shows you the social dominance of a person. You know, and a sister was telling me that she was like, when she came from Africa, in Africa, they would call black people here white.
What country?
Huh?
What country?
She's from Kenya. And she said they would call them white. And she was explaining to the lady, she said, who, the white lady? She was like, no, she's black. She's like, the white lady. Her mother kept on saying it. She's like, I don't get why she... The white lady. They said because the way you conduct yourself is what they call you. So most of us, and we look at it, we have Eurocentric minds. We're European.
Stop speaking white, boy.
Yeah, we're Europeans.
Yeah, that's what they say. You speaking white.
Yeah. Like, so when you elevate yourself on a social status, you're white. You're this, you're that. Yeah, you sound white.
There's also some people that like from northeastern African countries on their passport they say white.
Mm-hmm.
And they blacker than me.
Because guess why? They automatically injected into the system with a higher social status.
I don't know what it's about.
No, but most of the time, well, I know when I spoke.
Some of them still was selling fake handbags.
But that's their dominance. They find
right?
But they find a way to make money. You get what I'm saying?
But some people check white because
they know that it's gonna get them certain attention.
They probably imagine that, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, it get you a higher. You're in a higher class.
Fill out an application
to like come into the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any application. When you check white. Yeah.
You remember? Okay.
They look at it differently. They're gonna pull your application before.
Let me prove you. Let me show you how on a minor scale. Rowie, remember when people come from New York and come to Georgia, you automatically start getting jobs.
Yeah. Because they feel like
and they give you an apartment. Yeah, they feel that you're more educated, so they automatically usher you into stuff. So if you're coming from another country and you got colleges, they're because America's supposed to be the melting pot of intellects, and this is why certain people go over there. They go to college, like and you know it, and we know it. Nigerians have ran certain. They study the loopholes in this country.
And they get them too.
Yeah, that 14-year-old boy that was running a clinic, an office, he was running a clinic at 14 years old, a doctor's office. They had to shut him down. He was 14 years old.
Yeah. But he knew everything to do.
You know who tried to hire him? Dude from Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah. He's like, yo, this man's a genius. He's like, I gotta figure him out.
But even when they had the camera on him, when they were trying to call him a fraud, he didn't shake up. He didn't find it. He said, he was basically saying, I find it offensive that you would come to that conclusion without all the facts. I was like, this guy's clearly smarter than everybody in that whole room, man.
You know what I do? Like, if I'm around Africans, I use my name more. Because they be like, oh, you're from Africa? I'll be like, yeah.
It's a social identity.
When I was in Nigeria, they thought I was Nigerian.
See? All you had to do was pick a name that was
there was a you Nigerian? I said,
let me tell you. Most people in the African region, some of them were subjected to Islam, but most of them just gravitated to Islam. And they gravitated to Islam based off of it was convenient for them politically. So most of the people on the east coast of Africa, they just say, hey, I'll be Islam as long as you're going to trade with me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You trade with me, I'll be Islam. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's good. I can pray. We'll do this because it was an advantage so people understand the advantage. And that's what happened.
Especially in countries where it has multiple deities, switching deities is not a big deal.
At all.
Yeah, right.
I don't, because your God gonna change in 20 years anyway. They're like, all right, it's gonna change. I change now. I'll be the leader. What you want me to do? What you want me to do?
So for Hebrews, it's a big deal because we like, y'all bugging. It's only one God. But if it's a person and they like, it's 10 gods, and you're like, oh, y'all prefer to Allah? Allah's working for y'all? Cool, I'll try that. So it's a big deal,
But in most cultures, you're not allowed or you're not permitted to enslave the person who's of that culture. As far as religion goes, like you're not supposed to enslave a Hebrew, and if he is, then you can only enslave him for a certain amount of time until the Jubilee. When the Jubilee comes, you must set them free. So, as far as them changing their deity over to Allah, it was because at the time, I mean, Muslims were raiding Africa, or should I say Arab nations were raiding Africa and snatching up people as slaves. So if you were one of them, Allah praise you, then technically they weren't supposed to enslave you.
And see, because I've been studying, and this week, that's been the heart of my study, is the influence of Arabs over African nations. And to me, I identified that there was something that changed them before Arabs did. You understand what I'm saying? Because like, and when you look at Zanzibar, you start to see the influence of Arabs in the Zanzibar that started to influence the coastal region. Because once you got the coast, you have all the trade ports. And when you look at an old king called Du Nuwas was a king of probably 400. I would say, yeah, but he was a king of Yemen, and they reigned for almost 600 years, and they were a Hebrew kingdom, right? So before the Islam came into the islands of Zanzibar to influence the masses, they were already converted and people on the coastal region. And even when you go into Elephantine, Africa, you go into the Elephantine Islands. Israel already had, back in 700 BC, had dominion over a lot of them areas. Why? Because we lived in the merchant capital of the world, which is Canaan. So you know, it's like, even so when you see like we look at Swahili, you go into the word Chakma in Hebrew, is wisdom. In Swahili, Hekima is wisdom.
So what does Nakapinda mean in Hebrew?
Nakapinda is from Opinda, which means love. All right, so let's stop.
I'm just asking.
Yeah. But Nakapinda is more so. It's a when you add when you add a end, it means it's coming from a source. It's like it's stemming from you. So they associate it with I love. So Kapinda is love. Nakapinda is I love. And so it's like it's stemming from me. You understand what I'm saying? So in it, we start to see that these trade groups have a universal lingua franca that dominates the social status. Right now, what I would say, I would begin to close out. But I know we got a lot, but we took up a lot of time, and that's good. But I want you to understand that one of the things I wanted to touch on is the fact that Moses, when he was up in the mountain in the burning bush, right? And I open up the fact that most people are having a semi-permeable aspect of their understanding, meaning that we believe that there is some divine intervention or intervention from everything around us. The ancients believed in that. Sometimes we become so I that you don't believe that. How many of us think that we are we, or we are ourselves? But in reality, how many people believe that we are our everything that makes up us is our own personal identity? Yeah, most people believe that though.
That's not true.
And it's not true. Ancients believed in everything around them in epigenetics, and they believed in the semi-permeable aspect of the human mind and the brain and the heart. So when I go into that, I want you to look at it. When one of the things Moses did, when God said, he told him to do two things, and the children know this. What's the first thing he told Moses to do? All right. So now that goes into the holy aspect of prayers. And what was the next thing?
Not the signs. What did the Most High tell Moses at the burning bush?
He said,
No.
He said, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
All right. He defined himself. He gave him a connection. He basically saying, I've been with you. I've been with you before you even existed. I'm here. I was the one that's guiding everything. So everything that's guiding in your life, your mother, your father, was divinely sent by a creator.
That's right.
So now this is your identity. Your identity is the understanding. Even your mother and your father, the things that they did, good and bad, was divinely sent in order for you to be who you are today. And so now we look at it. He told him, he says, what did he tell him to do with the staff?
Put it on the ground.
Right.
And then turn to a snake.
When is the last time we really seen this magnificent snake in the Bible?
Before that and after that.
Before.
In the garden.
In the garden. So if you ever hear me talk about snakes, serpents, it represents DNA, genetics, and healing. Right?
It also kind of represents like something magic related because that's the root word, right? And you can see the root word when you look at how Yosef used it when he was talking about his goblet. Right. He said, "Hallelujah, Shayishte Adonibo, but who Nakesh, yeah, Nakesh, but that's the same root word." And it was like, and they translated as surely divine, but they talking about magic, right?
Yeah. So and then you see our vote, right? What does he say? Our vote. When we take as necromancy and a soothsaying, our vote, it means water bowling. Like ancient Africans, they look into a bowl of water, or somebody's looking into a bowl of water to try to see, and you see this with witchery and stuff like that. They're looking in the bowl to try to figure out future of what's going on. So even when you see what he said, even when he talked about Nakash is the serpent, so it represents like something magical, something happening, which our whole existence is magical in a way. And then you see that the next thing he does is he puts his hand in his shirt and he turns it into what? Leprosy or what color? White. So now, why is these the first two signs? And not saying that your answer is absolute, my answer is absolute, but now I leave you with the onus upon you to think, why would these be the first two signs God gives Moses?
I heard in some commentary, I didn't make it up, they said that the reason he did this because he was like, leprosy usually was something that was going to lead you to death. Right? So they said that was showing that he had power over life and death. That was commentary I read somewhere. Cool. Yeah.
Anybody else?
The white man is the
No, I do not knock what he said at all. I do not.
Truth be told, a lot of the most blatant racism is due to our interactions in America, right? And the history that we have with the Europeans in America. I wonder sometimes if that's their authentic, true nature.
I believe it is.
I wonder sometimes if that's their authentic, true nature because they were just like how you see. You love too. I know some of these street screaming camps probably not gonna like me after this, but I'm gonna love them anyway. But like you know how like you see how Moses slew the man, right? But Moses was already set up, right? There was also abolitionists that was already set up that risked their life and their freedom because they had some type of moral issues with what was happening in slavery.
No, I agree. Yeah. I agree. And that's why I left people with a thought. I'm not trying to, because I hate to dictate thought. What I want to do is open up thought. And I want people to say, why do they think? Because it's not wrong to question the Most High. That's a Christian concept. You know what I mean? And why you're not supposed to question and so question. Ask God, but ask Him with the purity of your heart. So if you get a chance, think why are these the two signs? And it could be absolutely what Nasik said. It could be absolutely what my Bain said. But just consider these two things.
What about the third sign?
Huh?
What about the third sign?
Explain. Yeah.
I'm saying, why the third sign?
Explain.
When you pour the water to the ground and turn to blood.
But he didn't do that. I'm talking about at the mountain.
That was the third sign. It was 3 signs.
Now there's another one of the deities.
No, I know, but I forgot. I'm saying at the mountain. I didn't know. I forgot about that. I didn't know he did that at the mountain. And now it represents. And the funny thing about it, okay, you got caduceus or caduceus, which is like you start to see in the medicine, right? You start seeing modern science. but also in ancient times there always was a staff and a serpent, and you see it with the Kushan in Numbers, in the book of Numbers. You start to see he set it up as what? A healing aspect. So somehow this deals with genetics, DNA, death, life, something altering. And I want you to look up a SLC gene, right? Or albinoism, right? Or a change of color and how it has certain effects on skin color. Pigmentation. And you know, albinoism is a genetic mutation. But it's just something that you can look at, because I believe that he was leading the people out to become a purer genetic breed. Like he wanted to disassociate with certain aspects. But that's just thought. I want everybody else to have thought. I want everybody else to come up with things. And I'm gonna ask y'all next week what y'all think. And I'm gonna ask every individual, people I'm looking at, I'm gonna ask y'all what y'all think, and I want y'all to come up with answers, because I want people to start thinking. Because there's no way in the world that they're using this book against us, and we really don't understand the nature. When you ask most people what do they think about this, and they just, hey, it just happened, it's just this, it's just that. And not saying that your answer is divine, but just the fact that you question and come up with an answer is divine. And so because you're starting to think, you're starting to utilize your mind. And I'll tell you, scientists, if you look at Newton, you look at every scientist in the world have based it off of ancient writings, and mainly the Bible. One of the biggest things that hit our community was the burning of the Alexandria Library. It's because we had some of the first translations of our scriptures. We had almost 50% of the population was Hebrews, and a lot of stuff we had there was divine interpretations and understanding. And that's where our schools, a lot of the schools started. See, people started sending their people into Africa to learn because they had divine understanding and knowledge. And so when you say Egypt, I don't want you to understand Egypt as what you think of it today or you thought of it before. But Egypt at that time, Alexandria in itself was 50% Hebrews. So when you look at this book, look at it. What are the elders? What is the person that put this on paper trying to tell me? Or did they just come up and just write down history and just write it? Or is there some kind of divine understanding beyond the pages that I can utilize to inspire me to become great? And like today, we spoke of a lot of stuff, but you probably never heard of it. It wasn't that deep. It wasn't that, but it's just the perspective. Now, I see Rob gave you perspective. The ladies gave you perspective. The young brothers gave you perspective. They can only read the book and interpret the book based on the perspective that they have at that moment. So these are insights to what people think that the ancients were thinking. So all praises, all honor, all glory to the supreme intellect of the universe, Yahweh, our forefathers, our Yahweh. And I ask that we rise and face Jerusalem and ask a prince among us to lead us in prayer.